We love our Sony Mirrorless cameras, but let's face it, they're not the best form factor to shoot great video right out of the box. Let's join 31 Films in their Sony camera workshop as they share how they rig their Sony cameras to work for video production. And don't forget to check out the full workshop through the link in the description.
So we're going to jump to like how we rig our cameras for different types of setups. So I'm going to bring up Britton for this part. And basically what we'll talk about is how, the cameras we specifically use and how we rig them, but we'll talk about how that could be also applied across the board. So our cameras, the main cameras that we use on the commercial side would be the F5, the FS5, the A7S II. On more of like the run and gun and wedding side, it would be the RX10 Mark III and the A7S1 as well as the A7S II. That's kind of, the A7S II tends to be like our crossover camera. It's like it's kind of a do-all, so it can land in any of those. So we've found various ways to rig and to use each of those. I will say like how we use them is totally driven by the fact that we have those cameras. So like if we didn't have an F5 and an FS5, we would rig and use our A7S II pretty differently. And we'll explore some of those variances, but like if we only had an A7S II, there's a lot we might add to that when we need that kind of like bigger production, kind of like high quality look, heavier camera, a beefier like codec. So we'll dive into that a little bit with each setup. So we'll start kind of at the bottom with our wedding setup. So this could be adapted to like a run and gun setup, but this is basically what we found to be like the balance in efficiency and quality. So for us in that scenario, we want it to be simple, we want it to be clean. We don't want gear to get in the way. So Britton can kind of break down what we're looking at here.
Yeah, as they've mentioned, they're completely feature rich. Everything that they come with, there's so many capabilities of frame rates, low light's amazing. So when we're coming into a wedding or an event type coverage shoot, these are our go-to cameras because they're so versatile. You can kind of be out of the way of the scene or the wedding or whatever's happening, and you just have this small little rig that you can capture so much with. So yeah, we have the A7S, A7S II, carrying around a monopod with an eyepiece. Like you're just kind of, you can get in the trenches with everybody and get some incredible stuff. We have some Zeiss Contax primes that we love using for weddings and for other types. The Canon 24-105 and 7200 is a versatile lens we have adapted to it. We love the look of Canon glass, and just having a variety of focal lengths right there at your fingertips is really awesome. Putting them on sliders are so easy just to get some really cinematic looks. We also have some Pilotfly H2 gimbals that we put the A7S or A7S II on. As well for weddings, that's another way to really get some cinematic moving shots. We have some Sony lenses on those, 28 and 50s, just because there's some autofocus capabilities that they have. They're really light, they work well on the gimbal. So that's kind of more of our wedding event type coverage cameras. RX10 III is usually like let's say for a wedding, we want to put it at the back of a church. It goes to 600 millimeters, so it's like you can get on someone's eyeball and it's kind of crazy. So we've done some good work matching that to our A7s for weddings. It has 4K as well, so if we want to punch in and get some different length from a wedding, it's a good option for it. We've put that on a gimbal as well. It's kind of cool to have 24 to 600. We've done it. It's kind of insane, but yeah, we've done it.
So can you pick up is that the RX?
Yeah. So
and that has a fixed lens on it that goes
from. RX, yeah. So it's got a fixed lens. If I'm being like totally honest, I personally prefer the RX10 Mark II over the Mark III. The reason is it's smaller, and this fixed lens is it's a 2.4 I'll use that term lightly because that is only when you're completely at 24 millimeters. When you
On the Mark II or the Mark III?
On the Mark III.
Okay.
When you start to zoom in at all on the Mark III, it quickly changes to 3.5. Before you're at 100, it's at like a 4.5. So it's a variable aperture, whereas the Mark II is a fixed 2.8 from 24 to 200. So it's a 24 to 200 lens instead of 600. That one also has some pretty cool features. It's got a built-in ND on the Mark II that they took off on this.
So why don't you guys keep the Mark II?
So like I have a Mark II. This was, when this came out, we ordered it, and it was actually like before we realized some of those features were, like, you know, this came out at, you know, we already knew the Mark II had the 24 to 200, 2.8. And so we see 24 to 600, 2.4 to, you know, 4.5. At that point, we're assuming it's probably 2.8 until at least 200 millimeters, and then, you know, it stops down. The ND, you know, not, you know, that was a factor that was, you know, some of those were like little surprises where I mean, Justin and I even had little conversations of that. Like, it was kind of a head scratcher of like, why would you kill that feature? That was like really fantastic on it.
And when you throw that lens out to 600, does it get huge, or
it does.
Is it really internal?
So that's 600.
Awesome.
A little eye candy. Yeah, I mean, another factor on these specifically is that they can do insane high frame rates. You can do 240p full HD. So for a $1,300 camera,
Yeah, so the price.
that's pretty.
We could get multiple of those because we do multiple weddings or events at one time. It's like they're so cheap and they do a lot. So
Yeah, so it's a pretty rad feature to have like that kind of high speed, that kind of zoom in a camera that you literally can throw in any bag. It doesn't require extra glass, and honestly, the lenses on these are pretty fascinatingly well performing. If you use like Sony native glass, it's really similar characteristics. So we have like the Sony 24 to 70 that we might use. We have the 28 and the 50. The image on this lens looks really similar. The flare characteristics are really similar to those. So especially if you're someone who went like a full Sony route and you kind of just need that like C-cam, you know, just like I need something with features or like a high speed option that isn't going to cost you $8,000. Pretty amazing like sleeper camera, I think, which we don't, and I don't hear much about that camera for some reason.
So we kind of go into our run and gun setups. We have multiple different ways we shoot, even from weddings to low budget, like he said, one-day turnaround type productions. This is kind of our low production setup where we have maybe one or two shooters. We have to turn it around really quick. We're in environments where we don't have control of light. We don't have control of really what's going on at all, or we want to keep a low profile. We shoot with A7, A7S2, and FS5. You know, we have eyepiece, follow focus if we need it. It's just kind of a nice handheld way. You can keep it. We have the eyepiece right up to your face, and you can kind of get the shoulder mount feel with it. We have some primes that and I think that's an 85 on there. We also have an attachment that goes to the bottom. I think it's wooden camera, but it's for your rails just to easily throw on there. So you can kind of rig it up as much as you want or as little as you want.
Yeah, and we found that like for us on the smaller cameras, we try not to make them something that they're not. And so the beauty of that camera is that it doesn't get in your way and that it is so compact, and you know, like, and so because we have an FS5 and F5, we don't need that to be a big camera. So we found that like we've tried cages on it, you know, matte boxes, all of that stuff, and it kind of felt like we defeated the purpose of that camera. And also, you know, it's like more things that can go wrong. You know, we throw a battery grip on there to help the battery life, and we had a couple of projects where the battery grip actually disconnected, like the circuit actually disconnected while we were shooting, and so a file that was recording went corrupt, and you know, then you have to go through the process of trying to save.
That was the end of battery grips.
We like threw the battery grips out, and we just said we'll just buy a bunch of batteries.
Yeah, lots of batteries.
And we'll change them.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned, the power that this camera has, you know, in such a small little package, throwing this image right here for a low production run and gun, just being able to toss that in your bag and then pull it out and just get some really great shots. It just packs such a big punch, and that's what we love about it.
And for documentary work, that mic on there, we use the K2M, the Sony. It actually captures really fantastic on-camera audio. So if you are running gun, you're not going to have like anyone that's going to be operating and running sound. I mean, it's surprisingly good. So that's a great feature for the run and gun setup.
Was your mind blown with knowledge just like mine was? Check the links in the description for the full workshop, and remember to subscribe to get more mind-blowing nuggets from professional filmmakers. And do share what your takeaways were in the comment section below. Go ahead, I'll wait.